New challenges arise and the world evolves. Their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
A lovely morning to you, and thank you very much for keeping it with us on UBC TV. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Extra. Robert Chirapo Nyonyi on this lovely Tuesday. Now, very important to note is I'm here to discuss matters of taxation. This morning, I'm discussing matters of taxation, and please don't run away. I know even right from the biblical days, people had always to trick Jesus not to pay tax, till he told them, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. Now, this morning, I have an official from Uganda Revenue Authority, that wonderful body that ensures we collect tax and we fund our budget when it comes to a portion of domestic revenue. And I have accrued patiency officer stamp duty. Now, this morning we are going to understand more about stamp duty, who pays, when, how, all that is what you're going to be discussing now. If you're in business, and of course it's your obligation to pay tax if you're in business, we want you to know, are you in that umbrella that must pay stamp duty? What is stamp duty? Then I won't say much because I have the expert with me here, and join me welcome my guest this morning, Patiency. You're welcome to UBC Studios.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. It is an honor to be here to share with our listeners and viewers matters regarding stamp duty.
Now, let's begin. Briefly, when we talk about Uganda Revenue Authority, it may seem very obvious that everybody knows what they do, but what does URA, what is your mandate?
Our mandate is to collect and mobilize revenue to support in the development of our country, to liberate ourselves from economic dependence.
Okay, that is a journey still so far, but at least we see every year you're collecting more than what you used to collect in 1986, which was 5 billion Uganda shillings. But now we are talking about trillions we are collecting. Good work to URA. Now let's move straight to the topic of this morning, which is stamp duty in a layman's language. Define to us, when you talk about stamp duty, what is stamp duty?
Stamp duty is an untaxed revenue that is levied on all instruments that are listed in Schedule 2 of the Stamp Duty Act, for as long as these instruments were executed or received in Uganda.
Now I used the word in a layman's language. Now we call it a non-tax what?
A non-tax revenue.
Now what is a non-tax revenue?
A non-tax revenue, unlike other tax revenues. The other tax revenues that we have, I'll give you examples. We have the value-added tax. We have the income tax, which is famously called corporation tax. We have the pay-as-you-earn tax. This is a tax after that is paid maybe after consumption, which is VAT, maybe because you're earning a salary, that is pay as you earn. Or you're doing business, that's corporation tax. But now with stamp duty, it's a non-tax revenue. It's not dependent on what you earn. It's not dependent on the kind of business you do. But it's dependent on, it's a levy that is dependent on the documents that you execute to make sure these documents are admissible in court, are presentable. Maybe you want to make transfers for your land titles to the buyers. So basically, it's not a tax revenue that every time you consume you have to pay. No, it's every time you execute that is when you will need to pay.
Now, who pays stamp duty?
Now, it's two scenarios. Every person who executes an instrument that is listed in Schedule 2 of the Stamp Duty Act is supposed to pay stamp duty, except the exempt institutions that are listed in Schedule 2 of the Income Tax Act and the VAT Act, or transactions that are done or executed by government, or those that that the Minister of Finance exempts. So everyone else has to pay stamp duty for as long as you execute or receive an instrument that is listed in Schedule 2 of the Stamp Duty Act.
Now, unfortunately, we can't go through Schedule 2
Yes.
of the Stamp Duty Act.
That's
But at least we can have examples of these called instruments.
Okay.
Yes. This stuff, at least, just to better create a picture. Because these are transactions people will have to incur, so they must understand.
That's true. Maybe just to make sure it's a bit clear to the public, is an instrument is every document that is levied, that gives you rights or liability or purports to have created or transferred or extended or extinguished or recorded. What does that mean? For example, if you execute an agreement, I'll give an example of having a company which has employees. Usually, companies draft agreements. So you'll notice that those agreements are legally binding. And in Schedule 2, we have agreements or memorandum of agreements, which is given a rate of 15,000 currently. So it means that every time you execute an agreement, you have to pay stamp duty to make sure the document is admissible in court. Then we also have examples of transfer of land title. We've seen where we purchase land, and then you have to get the title into your names. Now, that process requires someone to pay stamp duty for the transfer to be successfully done. We also have the transfer of leases. We also have adoption deeds, whereby you want to adopt a child and you will need to sign an adoption deed, but that deed requires you to pay stamp duty on it to make sure it's authentic. Yes, we also have we have had institutions like financial institutions, and these financial institutions execute various agreements to include mortgages. We've seen mortgages, we've seen loan agreements that are being executed, though currently, because of the provision that came in place in 2020, they were made nil. But these are also agreements, instruments that would call for payment of stamp duty.
Well explained. Now, this brings me to ask, if I'm transferring land ownership, I've bought from Patiency Akrut, now it is going the name of Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Ntono. Why must I pay stamp duty?
Stamp duty is paid. The reason why you should pay stamp duty is basically to be able to present any of your agreements in courts of commercial courts. We've had scenarios, for example, land wrangles. We've had land wrangles whereby you find that, yes, I've sold to you land, but maybe it is not genuine land that I've sold to you. But because you need to be able to make sure that you safeguard yourself, remember you have paid your money. And the only safeguard that you have there is for you to hold a title. For you to be able to hold a title, you must have paid stamp duty because it is a requirement. Now, in the event that there is any breach of your contract or terms and conditions that you may have agreed to, it means you can easily present this agreement to commercial courts of law, and it will be accepted as evidence.
Okay, okay. Now, does one have to register for stamp duty?
Yes and no. Yes, especially these institutions that handle bulk transactions. I'll give you an example of financial institutions. We have seen banks, we have seen insurance companies that execute insurance policies. These policies are quite many. Such an institution cannot fail to register for bulk because handling a single transaction becomes hard. And no, because we have people who carry out this transaction as a one-off. For example, between me and you, we may have an agreement, and it's a one-off. So basically, I don't need to register for stamp duty, but I can make payment for stamp duty the fact that I have a tin and you also have a tin. So that way we can just do a single transaction, which is a one-off. So it is yes and no depending on the volume of transactions that you execute.
Now, still at that, when you look at the volume of transactions, you've explained that for the insurance companies, that there are so many, for example, every policy or insurance cover, it's a commitment, it's an agreement. So you may not do that all over. But when you talk about a one-on-one, of course, our viewer talked about instruments. They are quite that are stipulated, these particular instruments. But where there's a one-on-one, I would think even if I'm buying land, it can be a one-on-one.
Okay.
Because I'm not coming back to you again to buy an...
Yes, now you'll find that you who is purchasing land, it's going to be a one-off. You will do it once and it will have 2 parts and it will be between me and you. Then even when we are signing agreements, let me give an example back to the example of employees. You'll find that when I join an entity, let me give an example. For example, I'm working for Libya Oil Uganda. I will enter as an employee, but you'll find that it will be very hard for me to be able to keep changing the agreement that I have with my employer. So it means it will be a one-off. I will join once, and under few circumstances shall we ever change the terms and conditions. So such scenarios, you find that you will only need to pay once. You can decide to say, let me, especially for those taxpayers who have not yet paid now, they may decide to pay at once for all their employees. You find that these kind of agreements hardly change. So it will be a one-off. They may not need to really register for bulk registration. Yes.
Well, we are still looking at stamp duty. Wherever you are, interest yourself in knowing. Don't keep that agreement, which we call an instrument, yet at the end of the day, when you need to present it before court, it's null and void because you did not go to pay stamp duty. That is how important what we are discussing is this morning. And now, how much time must I within register for stamp duty?
The time applicable is in 2 ways. That is under Section 13 and Section 14 of the Stamp Duty Act. Now, we have instruments that are executed within Uganda. Those have 45 days to pay stamp duty on them. And then those that are received in Uganda, for example, we have entities that have multinationals. They deal with their sister or parent companies that are outside Uganda. But you find that they are going to handle matters that are going to be done in Uganda. Now, those are given 30 days to pay stamp duty on any instruments that they execute. But mainly you'll find that such entities have agreements that they execute. Maybe service agreement, management agreements, or any other agreement. But you will find that they're mostly agreements relating to their business. So for those that are being executed within Uganda, you have 45 days. Those that have been received, now those are the foreign transactions. Those ones have 30 days.
Very interesting, 30 days. Now, help me also understand, because these are agreements, which agreements or instruments are exempted from stamp duty?
Now, the instruments that are exempted, I would not call it exemption because there are those instruments that are actually just nil. Nil maybe for a certain reason, because you will notice that we have had several amendments. Several amendments depending on the current situation in the economy. I'll give an example of the transactions that relate to financial institutions. In 2020, most of them were made nil. It means they will pay nil, for example, the loan agreements. Previously, they would pay, but now they are at zero. We have instruments that relate to any loan. Those ones are at nil right now, so they cannot pay. We used to have instruments relating to transfer of deed, title, and poem for any presentation of maybe a title at that time. But in 2022, with amendments that came in place, these were made nil. Yes.
Now, if I do not pay stamp duty, what befalls me?
One, you will do a disservice to our own country. Remember, we have a duty to make sure we develop Uganda together. So meaning you will not be compliant. Number two, it's a bit costly not to be compliant and pay stamp duty on time. Why the penalty that comes with non-payment of stamp duty is quite huge, unlike paying the actual duty that you were supposed to pay. For example, if upon conviction you're found to not have paid for an instrument, you will be penalized at 100 currency points, which is like 2 million per agreement. Let me give an example where you have not paid an agreement. You will find that you will have to, instead of paying the 15,000 per agreement, you will have to pay 2 million per agreement. Now, yes. So now you find that kind of expense to your business.
From 15 to 2 million?
To 2 million, yes.
Per agreement?
Yes, that's how bad it is when it comes to non-payment for stamp duty. Stamp duty is quite a difficult thing.
I'm just understanding the rationale in that.
The rationale is to encourage you to be compliant. Remember, you're going to pay stamp duty as a one-off. It's not something you're going to be paying often, unless you make changes. Unless there are changes that may be required. For example, if I sold you a title, and maybe you want to sell it to another person, you're going to change the parties that are involved and maybe the consideration that is therein, that's when you can make a payment. But if you get hold of your good title and transfer has been made, you've made stamp duty, you hold it for as long as you live. Trust me, you will not pay stamp duty again now. If you don't pay that one-off, really, you are doing a disservice to our own country. We remember our desire is to develop Uganda and make it a better place and make it free from economic dependence. So if we don't do that, me and you, it means we need to put mechanisms in place to encourage our fellow people to make sure they comply. So non-compliance for stamp duty, it's quite a heavy punishment. So I would encourage our taxpayers to actually be compliant, never fail to pay stamp duty, because the penalty is quite huge.
Penalty indeed is quite huge, so you should ensure you pay your stamp duty on time before the long arm of the law catches up with you. And maybe one would say before URA catches up with you. And of course, you must ensure that you understand these things properly. You know, many people are ignorant when it comes to tax education. You may find it very hard to explain to someone why they should pay stamp duty, or even if they have heard of stamp duty. Some are either conned and some will tell you, now there is stamp duty, where even it's not, where it's exceptional. So someone will tell you, well, we need this amount of money. Now let's look at the threshold. Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? You know, because some of these things, you end up having an agent or something. You know, and these people just give you figures. They'll tell you, Munange, Misoroja government. So you're not aware. And because you're desperate, if I want a land title, have a surveyor chasing, following up these things for me, transferring, then it brings you a list of taxes. Says, Mokuru, there is stamp duty here. Yet who knows if it could be 15,000.
Oh yes, we have challenges of agents in being in between the nature of our work. But what I would encourage our taxpayers is that it's good to walk into any URA office or consult an URA official. For example, we usually have IDs and in uniform. Consult those people, they'll always help you. And regarding stamp duty threshold, we do not have a threshold. We do not have any threshold when it comes to stamp duty. Maybe just to bring to their attention is that for stamp duty, we have two kinds of rates that are charged. We have the fixed rates, the examples that I gave for agreements, those that have a specific rate, maybe 15,000, 100,000, like the ones of the bank guarantees. Insurance policy has 35,000, and many others that have a fixed rate. So those ones have to pay a fixed rate. But we also have rates for ad valorem, those that are in percentage, and they are charged based on the total value of that instrument, like the example we gave for the transfer of lease, transfer of land title. Those are at a percentage, or exchange of a property where you have to pay 2% of the agreement. So for stamp duty, there is no threshold that is specific to a particular transaction, or that there is a maximum to a particular transaction, but instead we have specific rates and ad valorem rates the rates that are in percentage. Yes.
Well, we are still discussing stamp duty. That is Uganda Revenue Authority, URA, the taxman, why you should pay stamp duty, what is stamp duty, all that you need to know about stamp duty. And with me in studios, I have Akrut Patience, who is the officer stamp duty URA. Now, it is your obligation to pay tax so that we can develop our country. But it's also your obligation to interest yourself in having enough information regarding the taxation regime of our country. Many times you pay more than what you're supposed to pay. That is the truth. Or many times you pay what you're not supposed to pay, and someone benefits just because you're ignorant. So today, we want to ensure that when it comes to stamp duty, you're well versed with what that means. But please allow me to go for a short break, and I'll return shortly with my guests still discussing stamp duty.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
When you want to relax your body and refresh your mind, welcome to Hotel La Confidential, Aroa's premier destination for luxury and comfort. The only hotel in Aroa City offering a serene atmosphere, breathtaking scenery. Come and discover our exclusive wellness club with packages that include a fully equipped gym, a rejuvenating sauna, steam bath, and a great sky blue swimming pool. For events, our state-of-art conference halls and versatile event spaces are perfect for hosting shows, wedding receptions, birthdays, and more. Come and enjoy our cinema hall and unisex saloon, all designed to meet your entertainment and grooming needs. Bring your family and let your kids splash around in our beautiful kids water park. We are located on Aroa Pakwachi Highway in the heart of Aroa City. Don't wait. Visit us on www.hotelconfidential.com or call us on 0761 688 181.
Step into a world of excellence, comfort and pride with Royal Foam Furniture, crafted to perfection right here in Uganda. We bring you state-of-the-art living room furniture and bedding products at affordable prices. Our wide variety of mattresses include orthopedic, pillow top, spring mattresses suitable for institutions like hotels, and many others for home comfort. With every piece telling a story of royal excellence, our products are built with the highest quality materials made to last. Experience royalty with Royal Foam Furniture, proudly made in Uganda, so buy Uganda and build Uganda. Visit our showrooms at Ginger Road, Chambogo Junction, Bukota Chisasi Road, and on Victoria Mall, Entebbe, on the first floor.
Looking for instant excitement? The Uganda National Lottery Spin for Cash game is now available online. Wherever you are, you can join the excitement for just 500, 1,000 and 2,000 Uganda shillings. Don't miss out. Register now on www.nationallottery.go.ug for a chance to win your share of 2 billion instantly. What are you waiting for? Play Spin for Cash now, anytime, anywhere. Ituba is the proud operator of the Uganda National Lottery.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break, and thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. I'm still with that tax lady, that is Uganda Revenue Authority. The people that do the noble cause of collecting tax, and you, the Ugandans, that do the noble cause of paying your tax. I want to thank you so much, because if we are to look at Uganda's population and how many people are paying tax direct, it isn't that very good. But however, it is growing. The tax base is growing day by day, though more effort is still needed to ensure that at least everybody is brought on board and we collect the taxes that we're supposed to be collecting. Now, this morning, we are discussing stamp duty. We are learning more who is supposed to pay, what this is, and why you should pay. Now, before we went for a break, I and my guest, that is Akrut Patience, who is the officer, Stamp Duty URA, we had discussed quite a number of things rotating around stamp duty. But just to get this right, does lack of or non-payment of stamp duty make my document, my instrument, legal and void, null and void?
Thank you so much. No, non-payment of stamp duty does not make your document null and void. However, it makes your document inadmissible as evidence in commercial courts of law. It means that you cannot present that document as evidence in courts of law, in commercial courts of law, in case of any breach of contract that may happen between the two parties. So basically, you have to make sure you...
Now, what do I do? Because there is a period in which I'm supposed to have paid it. Now, I have this breach of contract. I have to present this document. Now, do I go in for the fine, where maybe it was 15,000? Do I pay the 2M to then make it admissible to court? How do I overcome that situation?
Now, depending on how much time you have taken, but if it's within the 30 days, you still have an opportunity, or 45 days, you still have an opportunity to make the payment for stamp duty. Now, assuming you are convicted that you have not actually paid stamp duty within the required time, definitely you will have to pay the 2 million for each, for the instrument that you may not have paid for. So it's important that we pay stamp duty within the required time. Honestly, just unlike any other taxes, for stamp duty, it is quite a small amount. So if you pay that small amount, it's better than paying the penalty that comes with non-payment.
Now I'm looking for all ways of exemption. Now, like withhold tax, there are institutions, individuals that are exempted as it is for withhold tax.
Yes, there are institutions that are exempted. For example, where you execute agreements with government of Uganda. And government of Uganda was supposed to have paid that stamp duty. Remember, government does not pay tax. It's like getting money from yourself and then putting it back. So really, government does not pay tax. And then number two, we usually also get exemptions of entities or persons from the minister. That is the Minister of Finance, because he's our head. So Minister of Finance will always give exemptions for stamp duty to the institutions or the people that should not pay stamp duty. Then also we have institutions that are listed in the second schedule of the VAT Act and the Income Tax Act. We have institutions like Aga Khan Foundation, we have the African Development Bank, we have UN institutions, we have the ESC, East African Community and its institutions. So those entities are exempted from stamp duty payment. So whenever you execute transactions with them, those entities or institutions, or if you're working with government, those never pay stamp duty.
Now, URA has come up with a number of initiatives where we can make payments easy. Now, how do we do this when it comes to stamp duty?
Okay. When it comes to stamp duty, we do declarations. Now, there are various ways. You have to make a declaration. Now, I'm going to give you 2 examples. We have the example of where we have a nominal instrument, an instrument that attracts a nominal rate. For example, an agreement. For an agreement, you will go to our portal under domestic taxes in the section of stamp duty. and click on declare instrument, which will ask for your details. The moment you click that, you will declare the instrument of the party that has to pay. For example, the transaction is between me and you, and I'm supposed to pay the agreement. Let me say I'm your landlord. So patience, you input my TIN and my details, and then I will have to identify the kind of instrument that we are going to pay, because remember we have various instruments. And the fact that we have various instruments that attract different rates, it means you have to be observant and make sure you click the right instrument so that you don't pay either too high or too low, depending on what you're supposed to pay. So now, between the transaction of me and you, where I'm the landlord and you're the tenant, there I'll have to choose agreement or memorandum of agreement. And then I go to the next page where I have to input your details that this agreement is between me and Mr. Chirabo. And then I input your details. And then I have to do the calculation for stamp duty. Depending on how we have decided to draft our agreement, we may find that we have 2 copies. So I'll put the date of execution and also put the number of copies. Like I said earlier, for agreements, each copy is 15,000. So if we do more than 1 copy, it means we have to pay 30,000. And so that you can remain with a copy, I also remain with my copy. So once that is done, I'll input, we have a security check, which is the captcha, input the captcha and submit. So now once you submit, you will get two documents. You will get an acknowledgement form or the declaration form, which will have the details that you will have captured, and you'll also get the payment registration slip, which will give you the details of the bank, amount you're going to pay, what you're paying for, which document you will now use to go to the nearest bank. You can even pay using mobile money, though I'd advise people to use the bank because sometimes it's easier in terms of presenting proof of payment. So once you make that payment, now you come to URA or any URA office that is nearby, present your documents. That is after paying for the transaction that attracts a nominal rate. Well, the moment you have finished paying, you present the document to URA. URA will verify to check whether the instrument that you have selected is what you are supposed to pay for, or the instrument that you have selected is the one that is actually mentioned. Because sometimes you may have agreements and it's talking about something different, but you think it's actually an agreement, yet it's actually a transfer of land, for example, or transfer of lease. Now you'll notice that these are 2 different transactions that attract different rates. So URA's duty is to check and confirm whether you are actually paying the right duty. You should not pay more, you should not pay less. That's why we are always presenting the documents to URA for that check. Now, upon confirming that you have actually made the right payment, URA will go ahead to issue to you now what we call a barcode. Previously, those who were here before us, if you remember, I was not yet born, but still the knowledge is there to be shared with us. They used to do embossements where they would stamp on those documents with that embossing. That was initially done by Ministry of Finance, and then at our early stages at the birth of URA, we used to have those in place. So now we are currently using barcodes. So it means that the moment you make your payment, you'll have to go to your URA office. They'll give you that barcode. Now that barcode shows that you have actually paid for that particular document, which is usually attached on the agreement as to confirm that you have actually paid the rightful duty and it has been received by URA. Now, that is what I was talking about. Now, in the event that me, the landlord and the tenant, we have had issues or there's a breach of contract, that particular agreement can be admissible in court as evidence to show that we had a fiduciary relationship between me and you as an agreement, but maybe you violated the terms and conditions in the agreement.
Well, indeed, you must have all this information. Ensure that you keep the documents very well. Now, as we come to the end of this program, where can people seek help?
Now, help regarding stamp duty can be sold at, we have platforms. We have our URA website. The portal is rich with URA information, with tax information.
There's too much information
yes.
there. I must.
So we have, maybe just to direct them straight, you can look out for the taxation handbook. We have a taxation handbook that caters for everyone. It is in various languages, and it's very easy for even someone who has no tax knowledge. It's just plain English that helps you understand your rights and obligations, what your duties and roles that you are supposed to perform as a taxpayer. For stamp duty, you will go to the section of stamp duty in that taxation handbook. You'll find that information there. But even then, you can always reach out to us. We have phone numbers, we have WhatsApp numbers, and the toll-free numbers that we have are 0800 217 000. Or you can call 0800 117 000 for toll-free calls to find out, to make any question about stamp duty. But also URA, we are up to date, just like any other organization. We use WhatsApp. In the event that you need to have that in real-time response. You know, we have adopted the WhatsApp way of doing things that now they are almost official. You can always WhatsApp us on 0772 140 000. You will always get help. Alternatively, some people may have challenges on maybe having internet issues or having data. So if in the event that you need help and you find that you cannot access any of the two, you cannot make calls, you cannot access our website. Our offices are widely distributed all over the country. Walk into any URA office that is near you. At least we have tried to make sure we reach out to every location of our country in Uganda, and even outside Uganda. We have some offices in a few regions, or definitely within the region. So don't hesitate walking into any URA office. Please confirm that it's actually URA office, because the details or the paintings around the branding will show you that it's actually URA office. Get assistance from our team. You will always be helped. Do not hesitate to ask any URA officers, especially those with IDs. Make sure you're dealing with someone with an ID or in a uniform. It may be like mine, but any other uniform that you'll find that is labeled Uganda Revenue Authority. You will always get help. The challenge we have is that some taxpayers want to come to URA office, but you find in between there are agents that divert them. And they say, I went to URA office, or people that always have offices near our offices, but actually not URA offices. They say, I went to URA. Then when you ask more details, you realize that actually this person did not get help from URA office, but got help from a nearby office that is near URA. So take note and make sure you walk into the correct URA office. You'll always be assisted. Our services are free. Don't expect to be charged. So it's the simplest, easiest, and affordable. Please walk in for help. You will get information at no cost.
You get information at no cost. So as we finally come to the end of this morning's show, let me just have your parting shot.
One, I would like to appreciate our dear taxpayers for making it for making sure that you pay your taxes on time. It is not easy to pay tax. You really make our work of ensuring that we develop our country very easy if you're compliant and you pay taxes on time. I'd still want to encourage our taxpayers to always pay taxes on time, even for stamp duty, to avoid the hard penalty of making sure you pay a lot more than what you're supposed to pay, which will affect your business operation and your operation costs. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Patience, Officer Stamp Duty, Uganda Revenue Authority, for your time and, of course, the information. Above all, thank you, Ugandans, who are paying your tax diligently. Diligently paying your tax, you really deserve a pat on the shoulder. And please, let's keep paying tax. Let's get that tax information. Information is free of charge. Just walk into any URA office or use the numbers that she has just given us so that you're able or you're not caught off guard. Imagine where you're supposed to pay 15,000, ending up paying 2 million. What a huge figure. Yet that can be avoided. Have a lovely day. May the good Lord bless you. See you tomorrow, God willing.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.